Welcome in to 11 Personnel presented by our good friends at Monticello Bank. I'm Nick Roush. He's Adam Luckett. It's January 9th, which means we've got college football semifinals happening tonight. Well, at least one. Notre Dame, Penn State's happening on Thursday night, followed by Texas, Ohio State. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the transfer portal. The end is in sight. Luckett, we can see it. The last few days to add players is here. It's upon us. The last few visits are getting wrapped up. We're going to touch on that. But hey, you know what? We also got some breaking transfer portal news we could probably discuss too, like some big picture college football stuff. We can hit on it all, but look at first and foremost, uh, how's did you shovel out your driveway? Have you gotten sick? Like what's going on over there? Because we've touched them all this week. We're even doing the potty training thing, so we've really hit the trifecta over at the Roush house.
Actually, my wife shoveled the driveway, so found a way to get out of that while I was
Oh,
working one
I
day.
I got sick and it was like, oh, we need the driveway shoveled today. Can you, honey? I feel too sick right now. Can you handle it?
Yeah, I was been battling a stomach bug, so that hasn't been fun.
You're
Thank
not
goodness
alone.
our daycare opened, I guess, on Tuesday
Okay.
or on Wednesday. So it was open on Tuesday. Monday was rough
Yeah.
at home. You're at the grandparents for a while, getting the kids back on routine can be a little tricky. Us being back on a routine is much needed. So we got through that. It's been okay over here.
We're on
Rough and rolling.
day,
All things considered, I can't complain.
I guess this would be day 14, 15, 16, day 18 of winter break with everybody at home. So, it's been fun. We had the hot water heater go out on Sunday. So, we're figuring it out. We're figuring it out. I've been getting out of the house though to work. So that's been nice. But doing the afternoon radio show has been weird because it's just my schedule for the last 5 years is now, oh, figure out something new. So we're figuring out, we're learning on the fly. Um, the kids were sleeping till 7, at least 2 of them. So number 3, she she learned how to roll over, so she forgot how to sleep like it. That's the fun we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, we're dealing with a little bit of sleeping issues right now at the
God,
house.
those
So
suck so much.
trying to work through those, but I think we've got the ball's in motion. We're taking the right
Okay.
steps. We're improving day by day.
Getting better,
Week by
getting back
week.
to work.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you can't. We're not going to win a Super Bowl right now, but we're just trying to get day by day, get a little bit better, and that's happening so far.
The thing too is like the stacking up the good dad days, especially with the lack of sleep, is you want to, like, all right, it's been chaos. Let me watch my show or my sports. Like, let me go watch Cowboy John Dutton, Cowboy Spencer Dutton go shoot a line or something. Like let me watch that, and then I wind down afterwards. And it's always like as you're laying down that the crying starts, and we're picking up the pieces together. We got to go back and watch the tape, and we'll figure it out. Uh, We'll figure it out. You know who does have it figured out though is Monticello Bank. They've been in business in Kentucky as long as the Duttons have been out in Montana. All right, 129 years in business. It's where people matter. It's Monticello Bank. Whatever your banking needs may be, whether you're looking for a loan, just maybe a little personal finance situations, saving up for something, whatever it may be, Monticello Bank is the place to bank, whether you're banking in the Commonwealth or wherever you're going, NBCbank.com or the Go NBC mobile app. Monticello Bank will take care of you. You can't stay in business 129 years if you aren't taking care of your customers. Monticello Bank, it's where people matter. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Check them out today. Proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. Well, okay, let's start with the portal, where it's been, I got to say, this second wave has been weird. It's been not as fun because it's like we know who they're kind of going after, but there's not a whole lot happening. And it's just, we knew it was going to be a slow drip, but it's been a lot harder to get a feel on where they stand with a lot of these guys for various reasons. So we can get into the individual players, but they have gotten at least 2 commitments since we last spoke. One of which is their highest ranked player. If you go by the rankings, with whether it's on 3, 24/7, whatever it may be, Washington State defensive lineman David Gusta. I'm going to call him Gusta because he's a big old Gusta win coming from the West Coast. He's set to fortify the inside of the trenches for that Kentucky defensive line. It was a good player for Wazoo last year. And then on Wednesday, we had former Clemson wide receiver Troy Stellato commit to the Cats. 16 players now, a few more to go. We can get them the few more to go in a little bit. But the Gusta, that was a really nice pickup. Like it. Like, it's not going to be the sexiest, splashiest, but you lost a big name guy in Keyshawn Silver, and just like you did last time, you were able to find a replacement there in the rotation at interior defensive line.
Yeah, I think you saw last year Kentucky struggled to address defensive tackle when the injury bug arrived during, I guess, spring camp there. So they're double dipping here at nose tackle. You get Josiah Hayes back, you get David Gusta back. I think there's a chance that they could probably play some together as well, but that's kind of your nose tackle platoon. I think the lack of depth there at interior defensive tackle hurt Kentucky last year. So I think you feel pretty good about that. And then you also had Jaden Williams. So you've kind of supplemented and reinforced your interior defensive line here in the portal. So I think you look at the defensive line at that 3-4 defensive end position, Nick. I still worry about that spot as of right now, but I like where they're at just about everywhere else on that defensive front,
which has been the strength of the team. Now, you can argue there were no strengths on last year's team, but and there's just a random dog running around outside. Dog, what are you doing? It's cold outside. Go get inside. But if you got it, like, hey, let's get this one thing right. Like, let's work with this and build our way out. And I know you've been tweeting out kind of projected depth charts for that defense, and you're like, okay, there's some stuff to like here. You mentioned one hole. There's some other holes to fill, and they're at least in contention for players at places where there's some holes to fill. Myquise Grace is one player you're kind of alluding to, who that's a guy we're having a hard time getting a read on because, he's from Cincinnati. Vince Marrow has a connection there. Kentucky gets the first visit. You'd think that the Cats would be in a good spot to land him, and then he just kind of keeps adding suitors, right? Georgia's in the mix now as well. He was on campus today, visited Georgia Tech, Mississippi State, Cincinnati. I know I'm missing one other. Wisconsin. Like, it's just, the list keeps growing, so you're wondering how they're going to do there. And then there's 2 other cornerbacks who are really talented players in Marcellus Barnes and Tamarcus Cooley. So between Grace, Tamarcus Cooley, and Marcellus Barnes, those are 3 of the top 11 best available players in the portal. You're getting visits from all of them, considered finalists for all of them. How many do we think they land out of those 3, Luckett? I'll put your feet to the fire.
Yeah, with the NC State transfer to Marcus Cooley, Nick, I just don't know if that's going to happen. He's going to multiple SEC schools. Kentucky's the last stop. So I don't know if that's going to happen. Barnes seems like it's 50-50. And then Grace, so that's what, 3? I'd say they'll get 1 of 3.
It's kind of where I'm leaning, but I really don't know which one it could be because Barnes.
Yeah, I think 0 is more likely than 2 at this point.
Yes, it has just been unusual though because Barnes was like the first guy I wrote about when the portal opened, and then we didn't hear anything for 5 weeks, and now it's like, oh, it's Kentucky or SMU. Like, what? So there's big bags involved there. Cooley, I think, could be one of the most impactful of them all. like maybe the most impactful transfer they get because he's a havoc maker, and that nickel position is it's real important to have a havoc creator at that spot. When Zion Childress is playing well, Kentucky's defense played really well. But, you kind of alluded to it. There's a lot of stiff competition there. I still go back to just like, as bad as things might seem for Grace at times, your initial hunch of like Vince Marrow, Cincinnati guy, go get it done, go be the star for an SEC team, it's got to be appealing. So I guess if I were to roll the dice on any of them to pick one of them, it would be Grace. But it's been hard putting your finger on where they stand with a lot of these guys, with the exception being Gusta because it happened so quickly. I mean, it was like, oh, he's in the portal. Oh, he's on campus. Boom, he's a Cat. That's how things normally happen. This go around, it hasn't been so normal, where things have been a little bit more methodical in the process.
Gusta feels like one they invested resources to get. Visited, done. Didn't mess around. So that's what that feels like to me. Grace felt like one that could have been similar to that, but it didn't play out like that. So you have to wonder where they are on that.
How much can they invest?
Yeah, and then how much are they willing to invest at corner? They've already added one corner. You got J.Q. Hardaway and Terrion Nichols both returning. So, like, how much do you want to spend there? I think the NC State transfer, Cooley, is interesting because, right, he is kind of that playmaking Sam/nickel player that Kentucky could use. But, like, what is Kentucky doing with Alex Afari, which is one of my bigger questions this offseason? Is he staying at off-ball linebacker, or is he going to go back to that spot? If he does that, then can you find a platoon with maybe a cover nickel or like a defensive back who can play on passing downs? If you could, then you're probably fine there. But if you're not, that one's just hard to handicap for me right now. And so defensively, I think they've done a good job, I think, at finding or like improving their depth. I think like Sam Green, I think, is a good backup jack to Cameron Olds. Jaden Williams, I think, will be behind Khalil Saunders, but I think he's a quality backup. Gusta will kind of be a rotation guy, I think, with Josiah Hayes. I like that process. So that's what we're seeing play out on defense right now, but I don't think they've necessarily got the star impact players. Like, they didn't get a Jamon Dumas-Johnson, but I think they're doing a good job improving their depth. And if we're being honest, depth was the thing that kind of hurt them the most last year. Now, their stars weren't necessarily – you didn't get the big year out of Deion Walker that you wanted, but depth hurt them. Like when De'Aaron Jackson got hurt, and then David Rayner was not available. You just didn't have any depth at linebacker. The lack of defensive line depth caught up to them. That was one of the bigger worries coming into the season. Lack of cornerback depth was an issue. You had a couple injuries there, so I think they're doing a better job at just addressing the overall depth of their roster. And now we'll see what they can do when they put all the pieces together. And defense, more so than offense, feels like maybe they'll. I'm not saying offense won't be active in the spring, but defense feels like it could be pretty active in the spring. I think going to find players. So I don't think they're anywhere close to being done. But we are wrapping up the biggest part of this is all over. This is like the secondary wave here in the winter, and then you'll have another wave in the spring. But I still think there's needs that they're going to want to still address here on defense.
On the offensive side.
But overall, I mean, I think you have to ask on defense, like, there's not whatever you think they're going to be on defense, who they're going to get from now or whatever, or who they've gotten. Like, none of that's going to change your opinion. Like, if you think they're going to be good or if you think they're going to stink, no matter what you think, like, they're just kind of, that's who they are on defense. And it's going to take some development and putting the pieces together. I think they've proven that they will play a base level there. on defense. To me, what really is going to determine this unit, I think, is they got to start forcing more turnovers, especially against the schedule.
Yeah.
If you don't force turnovers, you're not getting stops. You're going to be playing offenses that can move the football. So turnovers this year are absolutely huge, and that's been an issue. Like they're just not forcing enough turnovers. I think they've had moments where they've been good at that, but they need to force more of them. Part of the issue is like they just don't play a lot of snaps, so there's not as many opportunities. That's good and bad at the same time, but turnovers are going to be key. Like they've got to force more turnovers. I think pass rush. I think there's some pieces here with
Souls coming back. You've got a lot of you've invested a lot in the high school front, and a lot of that's all right. Let's see some of that pop, and then the transfer portals you got have shown some juice. Especially, I love that play you had Augusta just like completely destroying, just absolutely wrecking. And then Jaden Williams as well.
Jaden Williams is one I'm really intrigued by as kind of a defensive tackle, 3-tech rusher, something they have not had.
Since what, Calvin Taylor?
Yeah, so that he's intriguing.
In a flash, but yeah.
Cameron Olds can run the hoop. So like what can you do with that? And Souls is kind of an interesting chess piece they could use in different ways. So I'm intrigued by them as rushers. Gerard Smith's a guy I liked. It's his rush potential coming out. So seeing what they can do with all of that is intriguing. But yeah, I just think defensively they have kind of a standard here, and I think they'll probably be able to meet it. But my big question for them is just what does it look like against this schedule? Like that's the real hard thing. But overall, I don't know if they have they don't have guys that stand out as stars for them right now, I would say, on defense, but I think the pieces are coming together, and I think they're 22. They're too deep. And the 25 guys they play, I think they'll feel really good about 1 through 25. And I don't think there will be a big drop off if a couple injuries occur. That's why I think they're really setting up better than last year. Is I think they have improved the depth, but I don't think the high end talent is probably as good as what they had last year.
Offensively, though, that's where the biggest question, just about this entire Stoops era, come because you didn't score 20 points in an SEC game last year. It hasn't been good.
I actually, you want to hear the numbers, Nick? I actually pulled them up. I've got a column coming later.
Okay.
Just kind of dives into what they're doing at receiver, what they've targeted and how it works. But I to start the column, I just pulled the numbers. All right, are you ready?
I know that SP Plus had dropped to 89th offensive efficiency, which feels like kind of generous because I know points per game was like 109. Is that right?
I didn't pull points per game.
Okay.
I do have points per drive.
Ooh.
Because points per game is not fair because they play so slow. So I think points per drive it gives you better.
Well, play faster, score more points.
They're number 115 points per drive.
Oh, so in the more accurate, they're actually worse.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Now their recent points per drive finishes, Nick, were 87 51 in 2023, 95 in 22, 15 in 21, 92 in 20. So this is by far their worst points per drive finish. It's the worst points per drive finish of the Stoops era.
Not great.
Okay, and then success rate, 89th. Red zone touchdown percentage, 109th. Yards per play, 107th. EPA per play, number 118.
Did you have third down in there?
I have third down.
I bet that's pretty bad too.
We could pull it up right quick.
Yeah, because I remember when we were doing the Liam Cohen thing, a lot of it was the red zone touchdown. Yeah, 119 and third down. Like it was red zone touchdown percentage and third down. They were in the hundreds in each of them. Cohen comes in and they're top 40, I think, in both of them. Maybe even top 25, I think, in both of them. In short, they've been an opportunistic bunch. Like if you're going to shrink the game and play fewer possessions, you have to execute when it matters. And they're not. They were not. I mean, it's like game after game. Let's get down to the 2-yard line and not score. It's been bad. I talked about it. I wrote about it yesterday with Liam Cohen. I mean, the numbers he's putting up for the Bucks. Like, say what you will about the guy and like his decision to go back and forth between UK and the NFL, whether you think he did the Cats wrong or not. Duke could call some plays, and with Baker, they were hitting milestones and checkpoints that no team has ever hit. They're one of only 30 offenses to score more than 28 points per game in the NFL regular season since 2000. I mean, he absolutely crushed it this year. And the whole point was like, you cannot, I mean, they have 0 top 50 SP plus offenses outside of the Liam Cohen era. Absolutely 0. And so you have to find ways around. Like, you can't just like, all right, we've got this guy, so we have a good offense. Like, you have to find other ways to play competent offense. And like, it just, you have to have other ways. I don't know any other way to say it other than like, hey, maybe the pro style doesn't work. Maybe you need to spread things out, but you have to find more ways to generate offense, to operate efficiently. And have they gotten the pieces to figure that out this year? I don't know. I liked the Zach Calzada edition. I said as much from the get-go because of his creativity that he can add to the offense, because of his moxie, kind of like that hard-nosed mentality to him. But like, does he have enough to work around him? And you can detail it more in some of what they've done in the receiver room. But they added Troy Stellato, who's he's got the inside wide receiver look to him, right? Where he's going to catch some hard passes across the middle of the field. But like, how much? I mean, is he going to add explosiveness? Like, he's a good route runner. But like, how much does that add that you don't already have or haven't had previously? I guess you could say like having a good route runner on the inside will be a nice change of pace. And, maybe somebody reliable for Calzado to be able to dump it off to if he starts ad-libbing around. But like, do they have enough weapons at wide receiver? Because I don't. That's clearly been an issue, is wide receiver play throughout the Mark Stoops era. That's, if you get into the micro instead of just the big picture macro and play callers, the lack of consistency in the wide receiver coaching and the lack of consistency in wide receiver play is probably the biggest number one issue outside of 2 years with Wan'Dale Robinson and then the Juice Johnson, Jeff Badette season.
Yeah, I think here's the whole thing with, well, I think it's offense and defense. I think it's this whole Kentucky team. The sum have to be greater than the parts.
Got to coach them up.
If you just look at the individual parts, the answer would be you would be worried.
Jeremiah Smith ain't walking through that door.
So you have to put all these pieces have to fit together collectively, and that's what's going to be, when you add all these up, that's what's going to be good. I think when you look at the receivers, I think all of them have a certain profile. They're all former 4-star recruits. They all played at like big time programs, but they all have extensive playing experience. It's not like Raymond Cottrell or someone like that didn't play. These are guys that played and were in the rotation in these offenses. So you've got like this group of a bunch of wide receiver like threes, essentially. But they all bring something a little bit different to the table. Like Jamori Macklin and J.J. Hester, I think, are vertical receivers. Mm-hmm. One's 6'4", the other's 5'11", 6 foot. I think Kendrick Law has got he's got a gadget skill set. I don't know if he's beaten anyone on route running, but he brings kick return value. He's 5'11", rocked up 200-something pounds. Can be used on screens, jet sweeps. Almost all his catches came, Nick, either behind the line of scrimmage or no further than 10 yards down the field, if you look at his pass catching chart when he was at Bama. So he's
blocking too.
He's an extension of the run game. So like screens, jet sweeps, reverses, end arounds, all of that kind of stuff. That's what you would use, I think, Kendrick Law for. Troy Stellato, I think you go and dig into him at Clemson. He was at his best playing slot last year, and being an short to intermediate middle of the field target. I think he only had 4 targets of 20-plus air yards his whole career at Clemson. They used him as a possession receiver across the middle of the field. What Kentucky's missing right now, and what you don't have, the biggest loss for Dan Key was, did you have somebody over the middle of the field in the intermediate passing game that can make catches? Solano proved he can do that at Clemson. That's what Kentucky's going to try to do. So I will say it's not like all these guys are the same player. They're bringing in different types of players, and we'll have to see how that fits. But again, a lot of this is you're turning it over to Bush Hamdan, and you're asking him to fix it. You're asking him to both be a play caller, position coach, and a GM.
There's a lot of trust being put on that guy.
Yeah. So where I think Eric Wolford is running the offensive line, I think Bush Hamdan has probably had a lot to do with the positions. And what stands out to me about the skill talent is they all what kind of player are they if you break them down? Like, what do they bring? What do they do? Like, Dante Dowdell is a red zone third down running back.
Mm-hmm.
He moves the chains on third down and red zone. Was one of the best in the country. That is his role. Stellato will be a middle of the field possession receiver. Kendrick Law is kind of a gadget short game receiver. Hester and Macklin would be your vertical receivers. And so can you put all of those pieces together, and how do you fit Willie Rodriguez into that? I think that is the offense. And again, based off how they're building this roster, there's a lot of thinking that it's going to be run, and run again on offense. I don't think it's going to be that.
No.
They were probably run first, but they're going to throw the football. They are truly committed to being this pro-style, balanced attack. And we'll see if it works and see what they can kind of put together. But again, you look at them as a whole, and it's just like, where's the star power? You feel like you don't have a lot of star power. And and you feel like this offense, you're going to have to score points to win football games this season.
Yeah,
are they going to be able to do that?
Right, you're not winning like 2018. You're winning a bunch of games in the low 20s. You got to go out there and score some points. As far as other targets they could potentially add to the fold, True Edwards is the other receiver who was supposed to visit on Sunday. Luckett, have we? I never got any confirmation if he made it or not. I would assume so, but the snow and all that happened going on, so I'm not 100% sure if he made it. I don't really know where things stand with him. But more importantly, that left tackle spot, because I really do like what Kentucky's done with offensive line in the portal. If they can somehow land Shiaz Pete, who officially visited last week, probably like this time a week ago or Friday or Saturday or something like that. New Mexico State offensive tackle who's been a 2-year starter at left tackle. I think he was hurt and missed the start of this season. But Nebraska and Vanderbilt are the two big ones. And the biggest thing here, Luckett, is just you got out of the Vanderbilt visit without him committing, which Vanderbilt's Las Cruces West now. What do they call it? The West End, where Nashville plays. That's Las Cruces. Las Cruces East is the West End now. And so the fact that you were able to do that without getting Jerry Kill and Tim Beck and Diego Pavia to convince him to commit on the spot is a positive. I think that means Kentucky's got a puncher's chance here. And if they do that, you're like, all right, well, they pretty much hit on top guys at every position. Now go play well together. Like that, I don't think you would say that they're going to be one of the best offensive lines, but you should be better. And that feels like a very defeatist thing to say, kind of loser talky. But you should be a lot better. If you don't get this guy though, then I just kind of I don't know what they do.
With the offensive line, Nick, I think it's important to remember you're not going to build a really good one doing it this way. Like, it's just not, you're just not going to.
It's duct tape. So like anything with duct tape, it can work, it can be serviceable, but is it great long term? No.
But there's a big but here. It was so bad last year that just being like finding an average offensive line will feel like you know you've gone from the Vegas vacation chicken to chicken cordon bleu at a nice restaurant. Like you'll just feel like, wow, like what an upgrade this is.
It's like us with our press box food. They're like, this is gross. Like, buddy, you ain't got no clue. This is awesome. This is fine dining.
Yeah, I mean, it's like going from Kroger sushi to like going to Jeff Ruby's and getting a sushi roll. You're like, man, this is good.
Ooh,
what an
shout
upgrade.
out the Streetery by me, best sushi in Louisville, which I meant to do this on air today, but like it's just my neighborhood like food hall, and they made it a 24-hour shelter during the cold. So cool to see neighbors helping out neighbors. Shout out to Louisville Streetery, best sushi, and it's in the South End. Come see about it, folks. But to your point, like yes, like I still worry though if they'll be able to answer. Like their critics are going to be their critics no matter what. But like, what happens if they don't get Shiaz Pete? Like you just play Malachi Wood there during the spring and then hope that something happens. Like you're kind of living on a prayer there, you know?
I think Darren Stry would get some reps.
Yeah.
Mark Naves, a body. What's going on with Anthony Crease? Like, what's the deal there?
He took late. Yeah.
He was supposed to be a guy potentially that could compete for a spot at tackle at this point. What's going on there? So that would be the options. But yeah, I think just addressing that now would be, I think, nice. And also what it does, you get to see your full line in the fall. And if you find that if you get into it and you're like, well, we misevaled here, or an injury happens, anything like that, you get a chance to go back and correct in the spring when the portal opens again.
True.
So that's all important to remember. And you mentioned the criticism, the naysayers, like that stuff's just going to be there. It's going to be there all year. It's just something we're all going to have to deal with, and a lot of it's earned and deserved. They're going to have to go out and prove it. But the good thing with this schedule is we're going to find out pretty early. They got some big games early in the season, so we're going to find out where they really sit early. So we're not going to have to sit around and wait once the season starts. We're going to find out what they have early in the year. And so I think they've done a good job. I still think, it seems like they didn't just go all in and try to pay a running back. It seems like something they wanted to do, but hey, we'll see what that's going to be. I think a big storyline is just how the Wilcox-Dowdell partnership, what that looks like and how it works this year. Because they've got to be able to run the football.
There is on paper, if it hits, it could really hit, but that feels like a big if. And how's the distribution of carries? When are they getting their touches? And Wilcox, that's going to be a lightning rod of just conversation all season long. I don't think there's really any way around it. But the good news is though, is like we are talking ball. We're talking about the roster coming together. There isn't a whole lot of new free agents to talk about because the last day to be a University of Kentucky student this spring is 1 week from Monday, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's 1 week from tomorrow. It's next Friday, January 17th. Correct? Yes, that's correct. 1 week from tomorrow. Yeah. That's the final drop ad day. It's the last day that new players can become enrolled for the spring semester. So the transfer portal stuff's winding down. The new freshmen, they moved into their dorms yesterday. Was good to learn that DJ Miller was among them as one of the early enrollees because, when you bring in 5 new receivers, you hope that 1 or 2 of them are going to be able to play right away for you. He feels like a candidate to be one of them because they don't have that true X receiver. He comes from a big program. He's got the right size. He's here early, so that at least gives him a head start. Was good to learn that today, Mr. Luckett.
Yeah, I don't think that hurts, but again, I think they have 5 guys that'll play over TJ Miller this year, unless he's just a revelation here early. When you look at the 3 transfers, Jamori Macklin, Fred Ferrier.
Yeah, I just mean, like, especially at that spot,
Yeah.
like, what's to say J.J. Hester doesn't get injured again? I mean, it's happened 4 out of 5 years with that guy, or 6.
Sure, yeah, sure. He's I mean, he's a couple injuries away from being like probably in the rotation. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But overall, Nick, like I look at this freshman class and I just don't know if they're really going to get anything year one from any of these guys.
Okay.
Like Mikael Skinner, he's a different body type. Maybe Martellus Carter at safety when you look at just some of the numbers there. But a lot of these guys, like I think Javian Campbell and Kalen Edwards probably need some time on the defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
You got all these offensive linemen you got to think are all headed towards a redshirt season. Nicholas Smith is kind of in the same boat as the other defensive linemen. So this just seems like a redshirt heavy class.
And for me too, part of it, like, it makes sense when you're bringing in a bunch of transfer portal receivers that are going to play 1 year, and then be out, and you're like, okay, well, we have these red shirts waiting. I don't know how many, like, when's the last time a Kentucky wide receiver sat for a year and then year two they were good?
Yeah, receivers usually know early. Yeah,
like you kind of got to see, you kind of got to let him play a little bit, even if it's just sparingly, just to know if you got something before you really got to rely on him. Which is why we were excited about Hardly Gilmore, and what made that situation so frustrating was because he was one of those that did give you a little bit as a true freshman. So,
yeah, I think when you're looking for like maybe those surprises for this team, it would come from this 24 class. No secret, Kentucky needs this class to be good. These group of players. 23 class is pretty much all gone. 22 class is all but gone. They need the 24 class to be good. So, like, when you're looking for, like, wild cards on this team, Nick, like, I'm looking at, like, Quay Scott, Terion Nichols, Gerard Smith, Jacob Smith, Jaden Smith, who's a guy who signed with Michigan, flipped, Abba Silm, right? Like, when you're looking at future guys that you can maybe see as being pillars of this program, are growing into guys that they can really have something with, they're all going to be in this 24 class off this team. So what can they do there? They got like 18 linebackers from this class. Like, can
some of them
guys
that
they're there? Yeah.
You got to find ways for those guys to play. You invested in the high school recruits. You got to find ways to play. And sometimes you got to find a way in to a packed arena, and it can be hard to get tickets. Not with the Game Time app, though. Game Time is your best place to find last-minute tickets at the most affordable prices. So, maybe you want to stumble into a college football playoff game tonight. You're in Miami or you're in Dallas and you want to brave the elements tomorrow. There's a little snow on the ground. It's going to make people freak out. Go ahead. Buy up the tickets on Game Time, and when you use promo code KSR, you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's promo code Game Time. $20 off your first purchase when you use promo code KSR. Terms apply. Might be checking out a hockey game next weekend, so excited about that. Lots of concerts that are making their ways around. Kentucky basketball game. So use Game Time. It's the best ticketing app on the planet. The best way to get your last-minute tickets at the best price possible. It's the Game Time app or gametime.co on your desktop. Go get you some tickets today. Let's see. What do we got here for this playoff semifinal? Oh, that's a pretty penny to get in at the Hard Rock.
Yeah, I think you have to think about here, Nick, like Notre Dame and Penn State are huge fan bases.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they got all four of these teams are, like it's just.
So, I mean, if you're a Penn State fan and you were going to retire, move to Florida, you know, you got to think they're going to have a good chunk of people there. Notre Dame's got fans everywhere.
Right.
Like, I immediately thought, they'll probably have a good turnout for this game, both sides, when that ended up being the matchup in Miami.
The Texas is in Texas too. They're playing in Jerry World, and Ohio State's huge. So that I'm fired up for this semifinal. Luckett. I like that. It feels like we got a good four, and we wouldn't have probably gotten here the old-fashioned way either, right? Like, we probably would have had like Georgia, Texas playing again, or like Ohio State, Oregon playing again. The thing that's my favorite part about it is that Penn State, Notre Dame were the bubble teams in the old 4-team playoff. We would have spent all of November arguing between Notre Dame or Penn State, and now we get to watch them play on the field. And I mean, are these not like just this is a Spider-Man meme of a game we got Luckett tonight? Like, it's just who's got great defenses and sketchy off? Like, they're the same team. They're the same exact teams, and I love the under so much I'm scared. Like, you ever get that feeling where you're like, how could this go over? And I think my only way of knowing how this could go over is if it's a tight game and then the coaches start getting more aggressive down the stretch. And then the turnover bug starts flying, because Notre Dame's kind of been living and dying by the big play and the turnover. Does Drew Aller turn into a pumpkin, or does he remain the belle of the ball and light up Notre Dame? I love the under. The under is my play. But I kind of lean Penn State, even though it does feel like Notre Dame's got some magical juju happening with this playoff run right now.
Yeah, to me, Nick, I just want to point this out. James Franklin versus Ryan Day is a fascinating national championship matchup. Like, that is what I'm cheering for, really. Like, that is fascinating. To have those two, it's fascinating to have the two Big Ten teams that would be playing for a national championship in Atlanta. Like, that is, one person has to win
hot
it.
seat coaches. Yeah, I mean, their fan base loves to hate them.
Yeah. The big thing Notre Dame has going for them, to me, is they've just got two great coordinators, and it's just all come together for them this year. They're hot. They've won, 12, 13 games in a row.
Right.
Defense is awesome. They've forced the most turnovers in college football. But I think Penn State's better. I think they've got the better team.
I think they've got more weapons too. I mean,
I don't think, like, Riley Leonard's running around a lot, and I don't think that against teams of Penn State's caliber, I don't think they're going to be able to score enough. The side I like here is Notre Dame team total 23.5 under. Because this is a Big Ten game. I mean, there might as well be two Big Ten team schools. Penn State's going to be comfortable playing this style. And then you kind of dig in the matchup. The one big weakness one of these teams have is rushing success rate allowed for Notre Dame. Nick Singleton is very efficient, averaging over 6 yards per rush. I like him over rushing yards, 61.5. If I had to pick a side, I would just take the dog here, take the plus odds with Penn State. I think they have the better roster.
Well, and to your point about just Notre Dame, aside from the turnovers and special teams, it's like where do they generate their offense? We don't know the status of Jeremiah Love going into this game. Are they really going to be able to run the ball against Penn State? And the other way too, that they get their yards creating explosives, and Penn State doesn't give them up. It feels like we're going to have a good old fashioned slobber knocker, a low scoring affair on a Thursday night. But you know what? Hell yeah! The only thing that's odd about this game is it's being played in Miami. Can we get this at the Meadowlands? Like, get some snowflakes flying around. Like, could that be our neutral site? This game belongs in cold weather. Penn State, Notre Dame, Big Ten football. I need 6 inches of grass, some mud. Dudes really got the dial on their jerseys. Like, give me some of that. I want to see that in this game.
Yeah, but one interesting thing about this is that it will be true euphoria for whichever side wins this. And whichever side wins this, that fan base is going to gobble up tickets to Atlanta. For Penn State, like, if you're a Penn State fan our age, it would be your first chance to see them play for a national title.
Yeah, just
like when you were alive.
Yeah.
And if you are Notre Dame, you've seen them play for one. But this would be different, even though I think they'd have a tough draw against Ohio State. This one would be different. So, fun matchup. Both teams play hard, play fast. They've got NFL players all over the field. Both these defensive coaches are awesome. I think Franklin and Freeman, one thing both of them done is they've nailed their coordinator hires. Den Brock's an awesome OC. Al Golden's an awesome DC. Koltanecki will be a head coach probably year after this next one. And then he kind of did the Manny Diaz thing with Tom Allen. Get fired head coach who was a really good coordinator. Get him in a bounce back type situation, and Allen's had a really good year with Penn State's defense. Every year with Penn State, dude, they just have all these freaks on defense.
Yeah.
Micah Parsons, Joey Porter Jr., the Owe who's with the Ravens. Like, it's not Arnold Ibiketti who's with Atlanta.
No, Owe plays for the Cats, dude.
The other Owe, Odafe.
Is there another Owe brother that can play defense for Mark Stoops? Do we have any more Owe's out there? I would just let's collect them all. Let's get them all in Kentucky blue. I even go back to Plesny. Give me, and he was.
They've always had linebackers, right?
Yeah.
But it seems like they're just pumping out pass rushers now and freak tight ends.
Oh, who is the dude?
Seems every year at the combine they have a freak tight end. Brenton Strange, I think, was a guy who just was a dominant at the combine. Gesicki at Penn State. They just always got these tight ends, and they got another one, Tyler Warren.
Yeah, it's going to kill me that I can't think of the dude. Who was the dude last year that was the freak?
Freiermuth, Penn State.
No, not tight end, edge last year at the draft. He had like the dumbest.
Oh, it's the guy with Chop Robinson with the Dolphins.
Like, of course, you can't. How did I forget the pork chop guy? I love the fact too that Al Golden was the guy that ended Notre Dame's last like legit shot when they were winning championships in the 80s and stuff, and they were still good with Lou Holtz. Al Golden caught the touchdown that tied the game up at Notre Dame back in 1990, last game of the year. And then Penn State ended up kicking a game-winning field goal. But Notre Dame was up 21-7 at half, and Golden played a big reason in that loss. And now he's on the other sideline. Now he's on the Notre Dame sideline. So fun storylines. You get to kind of renew an old rivalry. Like, this was a classic game back in the day. And then on the other hand, you look at the other, like, Ohio State, Texas feels like a national championship game if Texas gets out of their own damn way. And I love the way that it sets up for Texas to get out of their own way because they're basically a home dog. And when I know it's different because they're playing at Jerry World, but like the last time we saw them where they're this nobody believes in little old Texas. I mean, actually they got their teeth kicked in that game. So I might have to take that back. They did get their teeth kicked in that game. But still, though, Sark playing that card, like I feel like that's going to work. And I also, as good as Ohio State's been in these last two games, Luckett, at what point do they start sniffing their own farts again and come back down to earth? Like, surely they're not going to – I think they're good enough to just keep doing this, but, like, at what point is Ryan Day going to come back to being Ryan Day? So, like, I hope that Friday night's matchup is as good as it can be, but the Texas offense, turnovers worry me. With Quinn Ewers, and then does Ohio State, do they revert, or are they just going to, like, surely they can't keep getting away with this, right? Like, they're going to go back to being the team that played around with their food all year, because that's what both of these teams are. They're the teams that love to play with their food, and they're going head to head with the chance to play for a national championship Friday night. That's what makes this game fascinating to me.
People forget that this is the Quinn Ewers revenge game.
People do forget. He spent a whole 3 months in Columbus.
Yeah. A couple things for me here. I think it's a good spot to back Texas. Didn't play well against Arizona State. Still found a way to win. Ohio State, like, it's just looks like a super team. This is the time to play them. Getting plus 5.5 for Texas, who's legitimately one of the best teams in the country. A sneaky parlay I like here, Nick. I think it's going to be hard for both teams to run the ball in. Low red zone. Mm-hmm. 2 touchdown passes for both Ewers and Howard. You can get right around 2-1. Like, I think that's the sneaky parlay. I think these teams are going to score. I think you're going to have to throw the ball to get in the end zone. So I look for both Ewers and Howard to throw it in. So 2+ touchdown passes there. I think I'm interested to see what this crowd is.
How Texas is it? How pro Texas is it?
How
Yeah.
Texas is it? You
Yeah.
know, it's Ohio State is Ohio State,
Mm-hmm.
but they just played in the Rose Bowl. If you're an Ohio State fan, you're going to go to one of those games. If you don't live in Texas, you have to assume it would be in the Rose Bowl. And like Merle is saying in here, the dogs are howling. Play Texas plus 5.5.
Oh, you gotta love that Luckett has a dog named Merle. It's very on brand. If you download the Prospects app and you see all the different sports up there, whether it's NBA, NFL. We've got a super duper wild card weekend this year that my team is a part of. Luckett's team is not. You cannot play Joe Burrow more than 1.5 touchdown passes this weekend, Luckett. But if you go to Prospects for the college football playoff, I saw.
Can you play George Pickens? Do they have drops on there? Do they have a over under for George Pickens drops?
You know what? It was too cold for him. All right, he's gonna figure. God, don't get me started with George Pickens and Russell Wilson.
Do I have Russell Wilson sacks taken?
Dude, I love George Pickens so much, and he drives me insane. But I love him, but I hate him. It's a real toxic relationship but that's Pittsburgh receivers for you. Russ, why were you trying to run the ball? You idiot. You cannot run the football. Throw it out of bounds, you moron. I digress, but we have the Super Wild Card weekend you can play. But look at Will Howard and Quinn Ewers, more than 1.5 touchdown passes. You can get that 2.25 on Prospects right now.
There you go.
So $20 to win 45. If you put in promo code KSR, you play that for $5. That's $11.25 you can win. And I say $5 because when you play $5, you get $50 in Prize Picks promo bucks in your account. Terms apply. That's prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app. Use promo code KSR. You play $5, you get $50 in your account when you play at Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app out there. Download and play today. Look at Wildcard Weekend. I got 2 questions for you. Who's the team that's most likely to get hot and win the whole damn thing in the NFC? Because the NFC, I think maybe anybody but the Packers after they lost Christian Watson, and maybe the Commanders because it's a rookie quarterback, first-time head coach. But you know what? Dan Quinn's been to the Super Bowl. Like, I really wouldn't be surprised if any of these NFC teams ended up at the Super Bowl and like went and shocked the Lions in the Dome. And so who would be your team that gets hot in Wild Card Weekend and goes and wins the whole damn thing? Or not gets to the Super Bowl, just gets to the Super Bowl.
I mean, honestly, if I bet Lions versus the field, I would take the Lions. I just trust them more than these other teams. Bucks defense is bad. So can they win 3 games in the playoffs with that defense? I don't think so. Who are they playing first round? That's the 3 versus 6. Rams?
That's the Commanders.
Commanders, I don't try. Not yet. Not in Jaden Daniels' first playoff.
Is it the Rams?
No. They've got negative point differential this season. It's not the Rams.
But
I don't trust Minnesota's not winning in Detroit after what I saw.
My thing, the Stafford, so if Minnesota, I see that's the thing though, is I think they would play the Eagles. I don't think the Rams. But like you could see,
Eagles would be my pick. Eagles or Lions coming out there to me.
I could see Matt Stafford going into that dome and leaving with a win this time around though. Sean McVay got everybody healthy. I know you're worried about the defense, but like I could see Dan Campbell being overly aggressive and Sean McVay cooks up some stuff and the Lions losing the NFC Championship to Matt Stafford and it just rips their hearts out. Right?
I don't see it.
Just saying. I think the NFC
Rams would have to win 3 games as a dog to get the Super Bowl. I believe that's right.
Yeah. It's true. Wouldn't surprise me though.
To me, I almost think the AFC is more wide open. even though even the Chiefs in there. Really, it's not wide open. It's it's a 3-team race to me. Maybe Chargers, but Ravens, Bills, Chiefs.
Chargers minus 2.5 is my favorite play of the weekend, and I know that feels like public money, but like
I've been playing them. I've been playing them the last 4 or 5 weeks just when they've been a favorite.
Jim Harbaugh versus this Texans team, yes, easy. But
and they run it up, like so you're getting them under a touchdown. They're not winning a lot of close. They're typically winning by 7 or more in a lot of these road games. If you go and look at what they've done all year, and the Texans and Steelers are nosediving.
So
I mean, it's a crazy nosedive both these teams are on entering this tournament.
Where it doesn't feel like either of them should be in the playoffs at all. Will the Bills have any trouble with the Broncos?
Yeah, I think Denver can hang around. I kind of like Denver to cover, Buffalo to win.
It's like what, 9.5, 8.5?
Yeah, I think it's 8.5. Ravens is 9.5 against Pittsburgh. Again, I don't see how you lay a number that big between those two.
Yeah. I can't either. But it does feel like it's the most likely blowout, though. Like once the Ravens and Lamar get cooking, like they really get cooking. But they don't against the Steelers for whatever reason. Yeah.
To me, the most likely blowout's Chargers, Texans.
All right. Well, what's the most likely upset then? You got to pick a money line dog. Who you riding with?
I would Steelers.
Oh God!
It almost feels like if that thing's coming down the wire, like and Lamar's probably going to have to make some big time plays in a playoff game.
Oh man, if Lamar,
and if he does that and they get over it, because Tomlin's been a thorn in his side, right? They just beat him, but he's been a thorn in Steelers have been a thorn in Lamar's side. If he can get over that, that might be the thing to catapult them to get to the Super Bowl and win it. But I could see them losing that game. I really can.
If Lamar fumbles a football while they're losing late, it's a TJ Watt special.
The question you have to ask, how many points does the Steelers offense have to win or score to win the game? That is the tricky part to me. I think you got to get to 24-27.
I was thinking 24, yeah. And
so that means
defensive score.
really what that means to me, that they got to early and they got to get a lead.
Yeah.
Like hot start. Like scores on 2 of your first 3 possessions or something like that. Even if one of them's on a short field or whatever, that's how I think that would have to.
Watching the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Kentucky Wildcats is like it's a very familiar feeling. It's just like, but the Steelers are just like the better version of him, right? Like it's TJ Watt and Cam Hayward out there. Did you see the stat that Cam Hayward has as many passes
batted balls
as
10
Christian Gonzalez and freaking Pat Surtain? Like he's unreal. Like this defense is unreal, and then the offense, it's just you got incompetent offensive coordinators that have it feels like they got no idea what they're doing. There was like a 3-week stretch where they're throwing up to George Pickens and it looked good, but
I think the Steelers forced one. I think they forced 1 punt, 2 punts, one at the end, and then one I think in the second quarter. Forced 2 punts in that game. Bengals had like 6. They had, let me think here. 4 field goals. They had 6 red zone possessions, and they had a chance to win. And they had like 150 yards of offense going into that final drive. And they had a chance to win the game. I was like, this is the most Pittsburgh shit I've ever seen.
Love that you spelled that out for all of our kids with earmuffs right now. Yeah, that's Luckett. He's looking out for the people, just like Monticello Bank.
And then Russell Wilson delivered. Can't hit George Pickens on the out and up, and then Freiermuth finally drops pass. I think it's the first drop he's ever had against Cincinnati.
Jesus Christ. Football teams. It's been a roller coaster following our favorite football teams this year. You at least got to end. Like it's very rare that you can end your season with wins in the way that you did, but it's also like the most Bengals thing ever to have.
It's the closest thing to not being in the playoff, but playing and getting multiple playoff wins.
I mean, you won 5 straight games, had the NFL sack leader, the passing leader, the Triple Crown receiving leader, and didn't get in. Like, just beat the damn Patriots in week 1. What the hell?
Yeah.
That would be
Speaking to the choir there, buddy.
Well, I hope we have a lot of fun watching the playoffs over the next 2 days. Maybe we'll get some more Kentucky football commitments.
Yeah. Mark Andrews, Nick, scored in like 7 straight games, anytime touchdown.
Okay.
So that'll be a dabble for sure. Lamar has got like an interception, like he's thrown an interception and some like the Steelers are the only ones to turn him over. So if you can get an interception odds at plus odds, I don't hate that.
I was trying to find Quinn Ewers interception odds. I don't think they do those for college players.
Probably not.
I was hunting for that.
Yeah. Anything else? I don't know. I still got to dig in. I will be on the Chargers. I will be on Mark Andrews anytime touchdown. And then other than that, I'm going to play the Vikings. I think the Rams. I think they benefited from that terrible division. What's good for them on them.
Right. There's a lot going on out there right now too with the wildfires. So that's going to complicate the game as well. So prayers to everybody out there. Appreciate you all tuning in to 11 Personnel this week. It's the middle of January. There's snow on the ground. We got 100 people watching us on the YouTube channel. So thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. And thanks to all of our great sponsors. He's Adam Luckett. I'm Nick Roush. This has been 11 Personnel.